Try again, Adam.
Can you hear me, Michael?
Hello, yes, I can hear you.
Hi. Hi, my name is Adam. I'm programming the Munitions Festival team, and we just seen your film Break All the Vases along with the others in the 17 feet block. Thank you so much for sharing your work. We also have Liz Roberts in person here. So I'm going to be trading off between you and her.
Great.
Okay, so I wanted to just start off from something that I felt was a bit of a point of resonance for both of these works, and to a larger extent, a broader sense of the program. I talked a little bit earlier about this, Michael, the sense of charged spaces as a point of resonance in the work. Liz, your film makes me think about the ways in which certain places, which we initially have no context for, gradually begin to take on sort of a broader meaning for us, and over time that sort of builds into a collection of memories that then grows. And so I'm curious for your film, when Colorado stopped being this sort of place of half-remembered trips and memories, and became sort of what will become the sort of trajectory that made this film.
Thanks, and I really love your control and when you put this program together. And thinking about charged spaces. So when I started making this, I was at a residency, I guess it would have been last summer, and I was trying to make, and I was getting ready to move again, and I was trying to make a short film about everywhere I really lived. And it was just a mess. It was all over the place. It was like different places, and it was just, the structure just wasn't there. And I was thinking about this place that I was coming to here, and just started to kind of dig into, like, what if that was the structural conceit of it, was every time I'd step foot in Colorado. And then I just started digging, and it's one of my favorite things to do, is to dig, and see what I can turn up, whether it's my own life and personal archive or other people's or institutions. And so that became the structure. It was just really limiting myself to that. I also limited any images to things that were filmed or here, or even like on the photography studio that institution or kind of area. The VHS video, that's kind of it's layered and it's going at different speeds, and that's technically was filmed in Iowa, but it showed here. It's like a reference to music, so there's a little meta in there. So I kind of gave myself a pass in that section, but otherwise it was a really interesting exercise to see like what I could pull together in that way with those instruments, and it kind of simultaneously took like the charge out of this space with the borders surrounding Colorado with everything. But and also I don't know, kind of made it deeper and more porous or something.
Thank you. Now, Michael, your film takes on charged space, or a space that has become charged, through events of the past few years, of course, touching back. But you approach it from this distance lens through Google Maps, and there's a sense of a hauntedness between the contradictions of what we see represented and what we know to be the reality of life in God. And I'm curious how you think about the significance of the gesture that this film performs, and why it took this particular form.
I'm having a little trouble hearing, so just making sure I understood the question. You're asking about charged spaces and why it took this particular form
Yes.
to approach the particular space. Okay.
Yes.
It's interesting that you use the term haunted. I mean, that's a sort of a difficult term, I think accurate, but difficult emotionally to think about in relation to this film, because this was something that came to me very fast. One night before I was about to leave for a residency, actually, I just happened to look at the Google Maps images that were in Gaza and realized that, it showed a different Gaza from the one that I was, experiencing through the interface of my phone in that moment. This way that the film was shot was also through the interface of the phone, but with a very different kind of, application that was being used, but similar in a way because the citizens of Gaza were, posting their own history, posting their own lives on an internet forum. And this was around the time I started hearing about other sites not just being erased physically, but being erased from the internet also in order to erase their, not only their physical presence, but their internet presence, which, living in our mediated world is also very important. So it just came to mind that I needed to document that before those images were no longer there. And the most solid way to preserve a digital image is with a filmic image. So I took the one roll of film I had left in my freezer that I wasn't taking to the residency with me, and shot this in one night before I left, just to make sure it would have some physical form that couldn't be taken down off of the internet. So hopefully that answers some of that question.
It does, yeah. Thank you. I want to come back to you, Liz. I feel there's a certain, obviously, like diaristic quality to the film and the material, and it's obviously spread over a number of years. I don't know when all of it was captured or written, but I get the sense that you've been an archivist of your own experience for a long time, and I'm curious what your relationship to your own material is, and how you balance like making sense of what it means to you, like when it was captured in the moment, how it feels now, and with the technical process of turning it into film, and if there's even a line for you between those two things.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I was thinking about is how can I give maybe even this vernacular photography in the institutional archives, like the same, like not one is more important than the other, and I think about that a lot and what gets saved. And I guess for me, I mean, I've always just saved all the, just being an audio video guy. Like I saved everything in that. If I have to get rid of stuff, that's the box that stays. So it comes with me. And there's even the part in the middle where I'm talking about Boulder really was when I was 21 years old, and I found it on like a microcassette tape. That and some people, I thought it would be really obvious because it's such a younger voice, and I feel like I'm so much more vocal fry now. But some people haven't realized that is from then, and I was like, oh God, did I need to put like the clip of the tape cassette or whatever? And then I'm looking at Emmett because I wish I would have let Emmett run my VO through that plugin. Like it's really well done. We did that for a different project, but it's tactile. So I think that and then the negative strips were just when I went to visit my mother, and I was like, can I just dig around in the basement? So it was really me just going looking, and I said, can I use these for something? And then I got this cheap like cardboard Kodak like scan your own 35 negatives, like for $10 or something, and recorded, and then my phone's just sitting on top of that, and I'm like pulling those negative strips through just to like give it some movement. And originally with the aerial photographs that are from the city library, I was really thinking about making an imageless film because at the same time I was thinking about like moving locations, and I was also trying to talk to some folks about like how we would make a film about things, that are activities that are criminalized. And so I was thinking about imageless films. I got to go see a print of Brackett's imageless film during this time, which is cool, and one of the bad things about being in Boulder. And not that I'm not going to complain about it the whole time. There's also good things, like you get George Brackett's prints all the time. but I sent it to the editor that I work with on most of my other things, Alexis McKernan, and she was like, dude, you gotta give us something to look at. She was like, not about it. She's like, it's not right for this piece, and then I agreed. So then I started looking for like what would be right for us to look at. And it was kind of like these views of the land from the 1930s that were surveillance images too. So I didn't get too far off track.
No, I was just thinking that there's something interesting about, the contrast that it creates of those like clinical surveillance images and the deeply personal kind of story that is being told. So it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, I was thinking about like being really far away and really close at the same time.
Questions from the audience?
Hi. Hello. Hello. Hi. I have a question for Liz. I really enjoyed your film, and I was struck by the cadence of your voiceover. It was really interesting to me because your film is dealing with these really seemingly tumultuous memories, but the cadence of your voiceover feels almost like it's standardized, almost like you've also like archived your own memories into like this structured thing. And I guess I was just thinking about that because I often struggle to find the right cadence for when I do voiceover work. So I guess that was an observation, but maybe relatedly, I was wondering how people close to you or like in different communities have received this film, like maybe people in recovery or your family. I'm curious what their response is, maybe to that sort of distanced reflection, or if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's been a few years since I've made something that is just me yapping and voiceovers. It's not my favorite way to make things, and I try to avoid it. But I think that it's especially I try to make sure I'm like being open enough, and I want to let people know me and see me through this film, but I also want to make sure it's not like too much. And sometimes I think taking the emotion out of the voice rather than trying, as some way to kind of balance that, as well as just thinking about what all am I letting out. But I think that I lost my train of thought. Oh, people close to yeah. I mean, I made this. I showed this film first at Film Diary NYC, which is a kind of DIY artist film, diary film festival in New York, and so it is purposefully diaristic, and then I struggle when I show it anywhere else. Like I'm most comfortable there, showing it there, but it's but that is the form. It is a diary film. It is somewhat confessional, and I haven't shown it to my family. I think like that's the thing. And I know people who write autobiographically like struggle with this too. Like, what is yours to use? So I really think about like what is mine to use from my family. And I think there's a section where I'm talking about my brother and his family, and I hold that back. And I say that I'm holding that back. So I think it's just there's no easy answer with that. Like, what is mine to tell there, even though it's my life, right? And trying not to negatively impact them, but also try to get really close to the truth at the same time. So I think it's important, and to be honest. And so,
I have a question for Mike. Hey, can you hear me? Yes, you're not.
I can. That's Eric, right?
It is Eric. Yeah. So, yeah, correct. We're connected. Okay. So, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Okay. Oh, right. So, I really like seeing it big, and I feel like I noticed the cuts for the first time, and they're so fluid, and I kept trying to remind myself to pay attention to when sort of like the focal length changes, and I kept sort of not being able to catch that, or just because it was just so fluid and natural. And I'm just really curious to get some insight into your thoughts about like what motivated you to change focal length and when to make a cut.
That's a really good question. There was a bit of improvisation to that, but I will say, you know, having made the film in about 20 minutes, the main plan was that I picked out a number of sites that I wanted to land on that had images that I thought showed just a different picture of life in Gaza as vibrant, as a place with pleasure, where people represented themselves and their children in, you know, just tender ways. And the changes in focal length for the first part was maybe somewhat just a way of making a clean cut after the wind ran out on the Bolex. But I had choreographed it and practiced it a few times, trying to get from one place to the next, and would go until it ran out, change focal length. But the only really intentional cut or set of cuts comes toward the end, where I really wanted to focus in on the fact that that Indonesian hospital, which I think was one of the first to really be just brutally, horribly attacked, I wanted to make sure that it read that that was open and that that was one of the images that you were left with. So that particular change in focal length was to highlight, you know, that while some of these other locations obviously say that they're closed, that one, despite being so besieged, was still open and still operating at that moment in 2024 when I shot it. So that was the main sort of motivation.
Any question?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Liz. I'm just curious about, and maybe you've already touched on this, but how it's changed your relationship to Colorado. And it feels a bit like you're laying the groundwork for, you know, like did you deepen your relationship to the state through this? Has it changed your thoughts about living here, the amount of time you might stay, all of these things? And then also curious if you think there's a project to do in other places you've lived that's similar.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really great question. I think that this really finishing this work it came out of like a really deep place of sadness about moving away from my adult child. And it's my mother singing in the beginning, it's my child singing in the end. And there's a lot of, so I'm also dealing with like a lot of generational stuff. And in that work, but I just, yeah, I think it has shifted my relationship here when it became so much more about like I've touched down here so many times and so many things have happened, and I don't know if it's changed like if I want to stay. You know, I'm just really still in this place of grief about leaving my child and like friends and community where I left from. But you know, it's also yeah, it's made me more open to what can I experience here now and what's going to happen here. Yeah, it's funny. I feel like I make all this work about like the Midwest or Colorado. The last film I made was California, and then it all just shows in New York all the time. Why? But so I'm so happy to be showing this in Boulder, and I'm glad that people laughed at the Boulder parts about it.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for sharing this whole program, and Liz and Michael in particular for making your work. And it's a big picture. So it's not really a question, it's more of an observation about the whole program, which more, you know, in different ways talks about not only it's site specific or about land, but also about desire and how much Liz, especially how much I love that the images you used of your friend when you were like 20 years old, actually covering herself in mud. The land is on her and how beautifully you shoot or shot there. And I shouldn't say, I hate saying shot, recorded that visit. Just how that really just like completely, embodied so much of what, to me, the rest of your film is also talking about. The desire for family, the desire for comfort, the desire for connection, but also that desire that we look to other outside of ourselves for, be it through romantic relationships, be it through substance use, be it through avoidance, etc. So that really, to me, synthesized so much about the whole program. And then Michael, it's so it was, so seemingly simple, your work, seemingly simple, actually so extremely painful to think about, in that same idea about desire, wanting to be able to perhaps, to solidify that, those places as best you can from this distance of the US, how privileged we are to be watching you do that, but also to be here instead of there, actually experiencing this madness and this genocide. A desire perhaps to want to help. That's how I felt. That's how I feel about all this mediated, all these images that we've been seeing. Yeah, that was all I really wanted to say, and thank you for sharing those with us.
I wonder if I might respond to that a little, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think that was a really interesting point you made about the desire to help, despite knowing there's very little we can do in real time to help. Certainly to stop the pain, stop the death. And it makes one question, what can art do in relation to something like this? And I guess because film has this particular relationship to time, I can try to help by using my body and using my voice and yelling and getting into the street, which I've done, to try to stop things in real time. But what my art can do is hopefully say something for a longer sense of time. I can maybe not speak to the present moment when it was shot in 2024. No, I'm sorry, 2025.
Oh. That's his connection. He ran out of data. I can't talk to him. You can.
Mike, can you hear me? No.
Nope. We might have to leave this one hanging.
Did we have any other questions?
No, we're done.
We're done? All right. Thank you so much. 4 p.m. we have a screening of Mickey, and at 8 p.m. tonight we're screening our Artist in Focus, Donna Carmelina's program of shorts. Please come check it out. Thank you.